This is Talk Time. The alleged abduction and impregnation of 14-year-old S.A. Oruru was an eye-opener to the plight of the Nigerian girl child. It wasn't until her story became public that Nigerians got to know of other similar cases of underage girls either being married off or abducted. In 2003, former President Olusegun Obasanjo signed the Child Rights Act into law. But not all states have domesticated it, and child rights advocates say most of the states that already have just pay lip service to it, and they're now pushing for full domestication. In the studio to discuss challenges facing the girl child and the Child Rights Act is the administrator of Jegede Paul Foundation, Victoria Nkong. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Same here.
Yes, when you look at the S.A. Oruru story, the abduction of the Chibok girls who are yet to be found, and so many other nameless cases, Lucy, Eje, Patience, Rita Okeje, and the rest of them. Of course, the 3 Babington girls that were abducted recently. Is that a reflection of where we have put the Nigerian girl child? Is it a true reflection of our attitude towards a girl child in this country?
Absolutely. Unconsciously, we have painted a country that allows our girl children to be treated like articles of the store, like things you can buy from the supermarket. It's everybody's responsibility. It's not just the government. From the home already, when the children grow up, you have a male child, you have a female child. Your girl child is already trained to understand that her brother, even though younger brother, is to be respected by her. She's not allowed to speak before the boys. You know, these things unconsciously grow with the child. A girl child grows in a home where her father abuses her mother often. Automatically, she grows up to her teen age to see the men as her confidence when she's faced with men is very little. She cannot stand up for herself. She cannot even report when she's being abused by the neighbors, for example. We have cases like that. In my orphanage home, I recently had a case of a child who was abused by her father. The girl is just 8 years old. You know, when I took her for counseling sessions, the kind of things this girl said to me. Of course, we are trained to pretend like the details are normal, but I went back and I wept. Lagos State has done a lot in the direction of child, but we are still very far from where we should be. There's a lot happening out there. S.A. Oruru was publicized, thank God for her. There are millions of others that haven't been heard about, whose parents are forced to accept it. Families even think it's a stigma for people to know. So you rather be quiet about it, and these things happen, you know, in hiding around us every day.
Well, I mean, this is really, you know, in thinking and trying to wrap my mind around the plight of the girl child in Nigeria, you cannot but help to actually take it to the family level, where if a woman gave birth, for example, and they ask, the first question usually is it a boy or a girl? Absolutely. And then the reactions are different. What exactly is, you know, like you said, we can't leave it only to government. Yeah. What can society do, you know, to change this mindset towards the girl child?
Independently, we all need to start from our homes, from our immediate environments, to sensitize the little ones around us. I think the mothers play a great role in this, the mothers and the fathers. Train your girl child from an early age. Tell her the truth. Let her be used to parts of her body. Make her confident. You may not always be there to fight for her, to stand up for her. So train her to be able to stand up for herself when she's in a compromising, you know, situation. They need to know. The fathers also, you need to spend time with your girl. You need to make the girl understand. I mean, my family, my mother had 6 girls. It was so recurrent that I'm the last. At the time I was born, literally I heard they gave me a male name because they're like, this one has to be a boy, has to be a boy. But my mother is happy today. We're all girls. We're taking care of her. We're taking care of my dad. There's one boy in the family, and my dad keeps saying the girls rock, the girls rule. So we should have moved away from that point where we always thought he's a man. You know, this is just a girl. What can she do? She's only good for marriage. You know, the man is the man who carries the name of the family. Hell no. We need to begin to inculcate a different, you know, training and upbringing from the root, from the environment.
What do you think is really responsible for, you know, this situation where the girl child is seen as inferior to her male counterpart, and it's played out, it's expressed in almost every area, you know, that affects a girl child? What is really responsible for this?
Outdated culture and tradition. Outdated, I'll say. Countries who have succeeded, who have moved fast in recent times, are countries who've been able to accept, parity, gender parity. But then, unfortunately, I'll say our nation isn't ready yet. Yesterday the gender parity and ban on domestic violence bill was kicked out in the House, by the Senate. So it comes from the top. We are not ready. I don't know if it's an ego thing for the men. I can't tell what it's about, because it's beautiful to see a man who's happy to present his wife as a doctor, as a professor, as a professional, who's adding value to the society. But some of us have clung to the primitive age, to the days when your wives were made to tie a wrapper on their chest and cook for you, and kneel down to feed you. And the country cannot move forward until we can let go of this dogma, let go of all of these traditions that hold us down,
And what do you think we need to actually achieve that? I mean, Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the UN, actually did say that when it came to making a choice between whether the boy should go to school or the girl, especially when there's poverty, the obvious choice is usually that the boy should go to school.
Absolutely.
So what do we do to change, to turn the tide?
I think the women have a great role to play here, because as it was seen yesterday, again, I'm just, the men...
Will legislation do it?
They have refused to. I mean, yesterday's bill, I watched and researched on the internet. I was pained. You had some of the legislators saying, yes, it's about that time. We should make it very clear that the woman can stand, the woman is... And you had others saying, no, the nays were a lot more than they in the House. And so the bill was thrown out. So right now, we can't wait for government anymore. This is about the third or fourth time the bill is being presented. 2015, it was presented. 2016, again, it's been kicked out. The women have to stand up. We have to prove them wrong. We have to make sure our impact on the society is felt so much so that, we should have a lot more women coming together to do things for cases like the Eseorurus. I mean, Eseoruru is for, how about the case in Nigeria recently where an oil worker, I don't want to mention company names, abused a little girl who's their tenant. And for a long time, they were trying to cover the case. Everything was done to outturn it because the girl is from humble beginnings. Obviously, the parents don't have the affluence, to fight like if you were from a home where your parents have money. So we need to have associations where we sensitize girls, especially in the indigent areas, let them know they have a voice. Encourage her, let her know she has people who will speak for her. It's past time where you begin to say this one has been raped before. No, she's not a victim, she's a victor. She survived rape and she spoke about it. Help her grow into something that she can use her story to motivate the younger girl.
Now, when you talk about rape, that is just one of the many challenges that the girl child, or woman for that matter, face in society. Now, how do you do a balancing act? When you say that women should come together and speak out on behalf of an Eseoruru or, the Chibok girls and all of those, how do you do a balancing act in such a way that, when a woman fights for another woman, it is not seen as a fight against the male folk.
Gender.
Yes. Because that seems to be where the problem is. Because once you speak out as a woman, it means you're fighting against the male counterpart.
We respect the men. We expect them to be at the forefront of these wars for us because they have daughters. The daughters are not ours only. The daughters are made by the man and the woman. But in a situation where the men have decided, either for their ego or for whatever, to hide behind the curtain, behind the shadows, then the women have to do what they have to do, in my opinion. I mean, there are men out there, who stand... in business school last week, we were given a case study of Prof. Patutomi and his daughter. It was beautiful. Everyone knew that at a particular time of the day and of the week, he had to leave to go play tennis with his daughter or to take the daughter swimming. And she's grown into a very outspoken lady. So there are men like that. But men like that need to speak to other men, to encourage them to do this for the women. But we are not going to wait for the men, madam. We have to go all out. People will decide to see what they want to see, but we have to save the society. We have to save Nigeria. We have to look for ways of encouraging the girl child to be educated as well. You just might be you know, stopping the next woman who will move Nigeria, the next woman who will manufacture maybe the first aeroplane in Nigeria from being educated and reaching that place for us if you hide her at home and make her clean the house only while her brother goes to school.
And, you know, one wonders, what exactly is the impact? That's a question I should ask you. I mean, I could sit here and, you know, mention all kinds of things, but you are the guest here. What are the likely impacts on society in general? I mean, it is said, educate a woman, educate the nation. So when a woman is, you know, relegated to the background and all of that, how does this affect the society in general?
I'll give an example we had at a conference recently. The woman is like the neck that holds the head and the body together. If this neck is taken off, there's a disjoint.
What an anatomy that would be.
So that's where, that's what the society should see. You know, even in organizations, most times the women are the ones who've got the temperament to keep things balanced. The women, you cannot run a balanced society without a woman. I'm not saying this as a woman. I'm being very practical. Let's go all international. Let's use referrals from countries who are more advanced than we are. The women have played a great role. I mean, even back here, before we learned that we should stop killing twins, we had Mary Slessor come down. Most of the men will not have time to look into these little details that the woman will. The woman has to be allowed to play her role in the society. It's just, I mean, talking about creation, the woman was created for a purpose.
Indeed.
Not just making meals. We have women who are great in their homes and are also able to keep their office front properly. You know, so we should let the woman express herself, play her role, her expected role in the society if this country must move. That's I mean, there's no way of sugarcoating it.
Let's look at the legislation aspect. I mean, the Child's Right Act was appended to by Nigeria since 2003 under the Obasanjo administration. I wonder how much impact that has had so far. I mean, not all states have domesticated that, according to reports. And in the states where they've been domesticated, how much impact really, how much difference has it made for the girl child?
Even for the states that we say have domesticated, get on this road now. You know, when we go for our meetings of orphanages, a lot is said about Lagos State, even at the national level, that Lagos has done quite a lot. But drive down this road to Ojodu Beggar. You see the number of girls seated by the road begging, you know, asking for alms, their mothers are waiting. Naturally, people believe that the female child will get easier sympathy than the male child. So the boys are seated most times next to their parents, far away, watching the girl come in to do, "Auntie, I beg." Now, this is Lagos that's already at the forefront, and people think the Child Right Act has been domesticated here. But I think we do the little we can, and we leave the rest. We do the little that we can afford to show that we have done, and there's a lot of work, I mean, everywhere in Nigeria to be done about this, especially with the girl children. If you're left at home alone while your brother has gone to school and your parents go to work, there's so many vices. You're left to, I mean, the security man, the houseboy in the next house, you stray off to the street. There's a lot of harm that could come to this girl. And we're forgetting that these are the children that are supposed to grow and take over the society from us. So I think if you want to say states have domesticated, I'll give it 10%. Because it's something I'm passionate about, I'm always on the look. When you drive, I call some of these girls, I interview them. You know, why are you here? Where are your parents? What's wrong? What happened? You hear all sorts of stories, you know. You can't change the world alone. You just wonder.
What is the common denominator in your findings so far? I mean, you go to talk to these girls and all of that. What do you find common among them? What is the major thing that is missing for the girl child?
Beginning from her home and her environment, she's been already brainwashed to believe that she's a second fiddle. She's supposed to be underneath. She's born to be underneath. She's born to be she's a compromised gender, more or less. So she already grows up with that impression. They don't see anything wrong, most of them, with what's happening. You know, they believe that's what they are supposed to be. That school is not for me now. You know, we do slum invasion in rural areas, in slums in Lagos, more or less, and I speak a lot to these girls. We do like a sisters network where we said, okay, take my number, you can call me if you have challenges. When you speak to them, most times they are shy to even open up to you. They feel you want to teach them evil. Education, you want her to go and learn and go and begin to wear trousers and rub makeup and begin to stand up to her brother. No. You know, they should be underneath. They should cook, they should clean, and they should sit at home. They should be beaten and they should accept it. That's what they believe. It's already been inculcated in them, in their minds.
And how do you change this kind of situation, especially for the girl child in the rural area? Like you said, you do, you know, storm the rural areas. What's the difference between the girl child in the rural area and, you know, her urban area counterpart? How much difference really do you see, you know, in their lives?
The ones in the urban areas are a bit more fortunate, a bit more, because they see things on TV. They auto-educate themselves from their environment. You know, they're a bit more outspoken. They're a bit more confident. You know, they are able to stand for themselves a bit more, even though there's still a lot of areas where we feel it's a stigma to open up about, so they don't open up. But they're a lot better off, relatively, to the ones in the rural areas. These ones in the rural areas, they hardly have aspirations behind, let me grow to 16 years and see if I'm lucky enough to find a carpenter that will take me in. You know, you're just groomed to believe that I should learn how to cook and keep the home early and a man will find me. It's the plus minus of their vision for life. But the ones in the urban area have grown to see women like you on TV look good, you know, and speak out. And even though the home front might try to hold them down a bit, they get inspiration from their environment. They're able to know that, no, life, there's a lot more to life. I can make an impact in my society rather than just sit and clean and cook. And I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a girl cleaning.
Not that there's anything wrong with any of those things.
But there should be a balance.
Absolutely.
There should be a balance.
And how do you create that balance? Let me come back again, because it does seem that the real problem is, you know, society, apart from government, you know, backing it with legislation and all of that. And let's even look at the disparity between the girl child in the northern part of the country, for example, and her, you know, southern part, southern counterpart. There seems to be a lot of disparity between the two.
In fact, when you read up from yesterday's sitting in the House, one of the senators made a point that he'll advise that marriage is done according to religion. In their religion, when you marry a wife, that's in the north, she becomes your property. It's as straightforward as that. And this was said, you know, by a senator of Nigeria.
An educated one,
that in their part of the world, of the country, if you marry a wife, she becomes your property. As compared to modern marriages or court marriages that teach you that you have a right to the husband's property. So if a father, a national father, can say this openly, I'm sure you understand, you know, how bad it is down there. So you're already born, I mean, from birth, your bride price may have been paid. You don't have a right to grow up and think that I'm compatible with this person and we might make a good future together. No, you're born and you're told that Malam Danjuma has paid your bride price and you'll be getting married to his son. From when you're 8 years, you're moving into his house. It's auto. You know what this causes? These girls, they grow to live double lives. They grow to live the lives that, I mean, they cover the hijab, but there's a yearning inside them that if given the slightest opportunity, they want to explore and they go to extreme at every given opportunity. That's the truth. That's the truth. They are suppressed, but you can never, there's a limit to which you can suppress a human being, an adult. She will grow from 8 years to 12 and to 15 to 18 eventually and to 20. You're not going to train her.
How much impact would education make? I mean, when an educated senator, for example, will hold this kind of view where a woman is seen as a property of the man, will education whether on the part of the woman and the man make any difference in the plight, you know, overall of the girl child in this part of the world?
It definitely will. But the right education will. Not the education that selects what to teach you and what not to tell you. The right education that allows you to know by yourself and make your choices within. So I also think that the schools in the northern part of Nigeria should be looked into. But then again, no matter what you're taught in school, the original upbringing has a strong part to play, you know, in your later ages. So this is something that one person cannot do, but we need to keep pushing and we need to keep trying. I feel the ladies that way, the girls that way, are a lot in bondage. They may not speak out. They may accept it for now because, you know, they think that's all they know. That's what they've been brought up to know, so they accept it. But we need to try to see how to peel off these bandages on their eyes.
Maybe we should even look at some figures here that I actually put down. Very, very interesting. Girls and women make 50% of the population. We're talking about Nigeria now. And 39% of female are literate, while 63% male is literate. I mean, the disparity is there. Is education where the problem starts from? For the girl child, where she's denied education, and so she's exposed to things like early marriage, you know, and all the other unfortunate things that happen to her in life.
You know, there are still places where a father is sick and so he marries out the girl for money to pay his bills. In Nigeria today, in this 21st century, 2016, there are places like that. So you rather be kept and groomed for your man than sent to school. But school is where it all starts. Everybody needs education. Everybody needs basic education. Girl, boy, I mean, I don't want to say dog, but education is that important. You need to form the child, you know, away from what she learns at home. She needs to go out there. She needs to be educated. She needs to begin to have a vision. She needs to see her Nigeria, for example, from a broader view and begin to imagine what she can be, how she can also influence her country. But if she's locked up at home and then she's thrown into the house of a man at 14, at 16, for money or for whatever reasons, you've cut short her future.
And let's even look at the area of legislation where, you know, the Constitution or even the Child Rights Act prohibits a child, or says that any girl under the age of 18 is seen as a minor. But our legislators have not, you know, appended that. They've not said very clearly that indeed that is what it should be.
For their selfish interest.
That any woman who is married is of age. How should we begin to tackle that, engage the lawmakers to get it right?
Like I said earlier, I think this is time for the woman to stand up strategically, you know, draft out a plan and begin to work towards it. Because if from the national level, it's not clear, it's not straightly and strongly put. I mean, it beats my imagination. These are fathers. How can they afford not to, what will be their reason not to stand up strong and make this point and make it clear? How can you see a girl of 14 or 16 being taken away, and I heard for Issa Ruru's case, there were comments like she was in love. What do you mean she was in love?
I guess we'll have to leave it there. Victoria Nkong, a women's rights advocate. You do run an orphanage. It's been nice talking with you. Of course, the conversation continues. It doesn't end here. Looking at the plight of the girl child and, of course, the Child Rights Act in Nigeria. Okay, still TVC Breakfast, and Sifon Asiane is standing by at a newspaper stand in Abuja to take a look at the headlines.